Hello, welcome to my review of the Lii Audio F15. So, today we're going to have a short description, some specs, a sound impression, then the measurements, because measurements always should be descriptive, not prescriptive, and then a little conclusion at the end. Well, thank you. Let's start. Okay, a short description. The Lii Audio F15 is a 15-inch full-range driver, quote-unquote full-range driver, designed for open bevel use by Lii Audio, a Chinese hi-fi company, which has been getting a lot of praise lately. On the right, we have the description and measurements of the manufacturer. So some measurements of the physical driver, a very smooth frequency response, and a impedance plot, and together with some other specs or the small parameters. So. And here on the left, we have some measurements concluded from my dad's measurement, including 26 grams added mass. And then this is a short diagram of the specs in a Basta speaker design. As you can see, they do not match completely, especially the EMS, the QMS of this driver. The real one is quite a bit higher, but well, at least they're a matched pair. So sound impression. Let's start on the left with bass. Open bevel has been the discussion that it has fast bass. I can say that, well, at least this 15-inch open bevel driver has a very fast decaying bass. It's very detailed. It is my personal reference. It's the best bass that I've had, even though it doesn't extend very well, because it pretty much drops off below 50 hertz in my room pretty steeply without using a sub. So the mid-range, it's a pleasant distortion on instruments. I'm gonna say it's pleasant because it's distorted. It sounds like someone singing. It sounds like it's playing through something. You know, it adds a lot of color to the sound. It's not a neutral speaker. This thing will add a lot of color. The vocals are horrible because of the same reason. That added resonance, that color, I really don't like it on the vocal. It sounds muddy. It sounds like someone singing through an A4 paper. Like, hold that paper in front of your mouth and say something or sing something, and that thing will resonate, and you kind of get that same sound with this one. And I don't know why other people praise this speaker the way they do based on this alone. The upper mid-range is dull to non-existent. Details like the fundamentals of hi-hats, it's like the fundamentals on instruments that are higher in the mid-range, they just disappear, and you hear like some weird distortion. You only hear the harmonics of it, and you hear that in the treble, which is as well sharp as non-existent and resonant at the same time. We'll get to that in the measurement, why that is. It feels sharp yet absolutely not extended. It doesn't extend very well. You notice that you miss the upper extension of the treble. So power handling, it's a very high sensitivity speaker, and we'll get to that in the measurements. But you hear it. The input or your preamp or your integrated amp, that knob is pretty much all the way down, that volume knob. You have absolutely nothing left on there. It's that's a great thing to a certain degree. I kind of like the high sensitivity nature of it. Little to no Doppler distortion. Big woofer, low excursion with high sensitivity, so it just doesn't drive. The displacement of the woofer is not very high, and with that low Doppler distortion, which I kind of hate, and that's why I like high sensitivity drivers or three-way designs. It needs a boatload of current. It has a very high Q on the impedance plot, with a very high, very noticeable resonance. And to control that resonance, even the slightest, you need a lot of current. My little Risong tube amp, that 6-watt tube amp, it will not do it. It just can't. It just physically can't control that resonance well enough. So I have to put solid state on there to not have boomy bass. The ATOL integrated amp that I have is 80 watts into 8 ohms. It's perfectly capable of it. It's surprisingly capable of it, of doing that job. The Topping PA3 also did it, although that thing has flaws of its own. It's very noisy amp, so it doesn't pair well with high sensitivity speakers. So you need a fairly clean amp with not a lot of self noise. That includes your DAC and your other upstream components as well. They cannot have high self noise, because you will hear your speakers hiss a lot. Even though the treble is cut off, you still hear it. Sound staging, it's a big image. It's not very well defined in the mid and treble region. But low-end instruments like upright bass, wow, that the holographic nature of those instruments do come through very well. I really like these things low end, with imaging and detail in general. Also probably thanks to the massive surface area of a 15-inch driver. Gut feeling, so that's more of a general impression. It's more smooth than analytical. It's overly smooth to me, to the point where you just lack detail and resolution. So it has too many flaws to ignore. I can't really enjoy music on these things as is, and even with a crossover, in which design I had them previously with a horn driver on top, I can't enjoy them. I truly cannot enjoy them the way they are. They color the sound too much as is. So let's get into some measurements. So let's start out with a frequency response. I have a 5 dB scale between the big lines, and every small thin line is a single dB. As you can see, this is measured at 1 meter with 2.83 volts, and the driver is about a meter off the ground with the bevel that it's on right now. which causes this little dip right here. This is a baffle thing, because you need a big baffle for this. So you will have some baffle edge diffraction, and this is one of those. So this could be smoother right here if you had a bit more creative baffle design than I have. But as soon as you get to 3K, the big problems start. So I think this dip is caused by the wizard cone and the main cone being out of phase. So it causes a cancellation. And then this part is where the wizard cone takes over, and it is loud. It is very loud. It is at some point about 10, 12 dB higher than 5 to 10 dB higher than than the rest of your frequency response. Let's just say that this is like 189 dB. This is 108 dB. So this is 10 dB louder than your normal response. You will hear this. This is the part where I say that it's sharp. This is where fundamentals of some very high structured like cymbals and hi-hats live. And then this is the part where they resonate. And this is louder than this, and you will hear this. So it sounds dull because there's no fundamental, and it sounds bright and sharp at the same time. So, and well, this is the part where it's just just doesn't exist. Like there's no real output above 10K anymore. It just drops off. So this is the impedance plot. This is why you need a lot of current. This peak is high. It's very high. It's annoyingly high. Your amplifier does not like this at all. At all. So please take note of this. People say this thing goes with tube amps because it's very high sensitivity. Well, if you don't care about bass, if an upright bass hits this resonance frequency, your driver and your amp are not doing things you'd like it to do. And this is the part where a lot of upright bass lives, on the lower registers. So Miles Davis, kind of blue, you will hear this 100%. And you need power for this. You need loads of current. This is why I say you need solid state for this thing. At least the tube amp that I have cannot handle this. And I like detailed bass. I want the bass to be good. So a distortion measurement. It's a room EQ wizard distortion measurement, so it's not gated. Well, you have some resonance here. Excuse me. And you see some resonance here, and you see that back in the distortion measurements. And this is also where that massive dip lives, in the upper mid range. This is at 2.83 volts, so this is at 100 decibels. I would say that this is pretty well behaved up until 600 hertz, where you start to get some peaking, which is undesirable. So yes, take this for what you want. And this is the real disaster. This is the waterfall plot with a 3.5 millisecond gate, I believe. Again, at 1 meter, it's a 4 millisecond gate. this thing rings for a long time at pretty much any frequency. Like, you hit one frequency and it will resonate with all frequencies. This thing does not behave very well. Again, this is with a 35 dB scale. Most of these plots that you see are a 24 dB scale, like stereophile. I find that most speakers will, most well-designed speakers, of my own design at least, do not show problems unless you go down to 35 dB scale. 24 dB or 25 dB, everything will look reasonably good. As soon as you start going down to, well, 35 dB, then you start to see lower traces, and I think they're still somewhat audible, and you should take care of those as well. So, in conclusion, it has good bass, it has a bad mid-range treble and sound staging, it has misrepresented specifications. Please do not buy this at $400, let alone 550 euros. I just checked the pricing at the Lii Audio site. Just don't. Please don't buy anything else but this. There are so many great DIY speaker designs out there. Do not buy this at all. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.
Such a beautiful lie when I still watch you closer. I am longing for closure, and I'm wondering why. No matter what I do, I keep on falling for you.